Welcome to the final day, the marathon. I'm going to talk a little bit about bigger picture things. I'm a big picture thinker. And I want you to really start with the end in mind, where you want to be in the next year, 5 years, 10 years. And if you don't know where that is, exercise that I find to be very helpful is something called the hot pen exercise, which means you sit down with a pen and paper, analog style, and just write stream of conscious for 1 year, then write 5 years and 10 years. And if you start to do that vision, you know where you want to be, you'll get there. But if you don't have a vision of where you want to be, you're going to meander. And so I'm hoping with this course, I didn't just teach you some basic mechanics, which is important, but I've also taught you to think creatively and with a larger picture. For me, I've scaled back my lectures. I've scaled back my travels. I'm looking for more a family goal in the next 5 years. So these are things that you have to know what you want to be, where you want to be, and if you don't, then you won't get there. Vision is everything. This man created this by thinking through it and saying, look, no compromises, this is where I want to be. Don't let anyone else tell you you can't do it. Don't let me tell you you can't do it. The only person that's going to tell you you can't do it is you. So if you want it, grab it, and understand it's going to take work. Spend that free time when you're driving. Tony Robbins calls it net time, no extra time, which means like when you're driving, audiobooks. I learned languages. I learned 5 languages in the last year and a half driving, done audiobooks. Blinkist is a short synopsis app that lets you listen to a lot of programs very, very quickly. And a lot of people think about management as important. Leadership is creating a culture, it's defining a way of thinking and a way of living. And so what I'm trying to do with the goal of this short time that we're together is I can't teach you everything about hair, but I can inspire you. So you're not going to get a lot of nuts and bolts out of this lecture except hopefully a little bit of inspiration of where you could be. So it's not about management, it's not managing people. You can't manage people. You can lead them and inspire them and bring them where you want to be. And I look at the people that have come through this program, and they are the current leaders and the future leaders of this industry. And that's exciting to me. And the people that came with perhaps a mindset that they were going to just make a few extra bucks. Now, we're in a business. I'm not saying this is not profitable. This is not one of my end goals. Of course it is. But with just that mindset, you don't succeed, because without passion, you don't drive yourself forward. Life becomes boring and you can't really succeed. And so mentorship is important. You know, we're all mentors of each other. Hopefully I'm a mentor for you, and hopefully you're a mentor for me. We mentor each other. Ed Williams was my mentor. He's an amazing gentleman. And you know, at 32 years of age, I went from, I think in my 20s, a very angry person, you know, fighting a lot of racism I dealt with in my teenage years that made me, you know, inferiority complex, anger, needed to push harder than I probably needed to do. But Ed taught me humility. He taught me when things were wrong in the office, he just ate it. He just took it. He assumed the mantle of it. So, you know, he said if you can't control your own anger or control your own self, you can't control other people. And he didn't mean control, but it meant lead them. He was using that as an expression. I like the expression also, be a mentor and find a mentor. It's important. I love the whole John Maxwell series of books. They're fantastic. But the idea is that people don't quit companies. They join companies, but then they quit a management. So don't be that leader that micromanages and doesn't inspire. I mean, would you like to work under someone that basically nitpicks you and belittles you? First of all, I don't have enough energy to manage people, okay? I have energy to lead people because it's fun. I'm not a good manager. I'm actually a bad manager. I've got management in place, but I lead my management team. So leadership is something that it's hard to define. You sort of know it when it's there. And that's really, really important. Drive, Daniel Pink talks about, you know, bonusing people is great, but there's a culture that's defined there where the people are just driven by money, and people can sense it. Instead, be driven by where your passion is and instill that in them. And start with why is Simon Sinek's book, which is to go back and say, hey, you know, why are we doing what we're doing? Like a lot of people think, you know, you like Apple products because of the design. Well, that's what I tell myself. No, but I want to be associated with that company because I love design, and therefore I want to be that person. My why is going back to the core and saying I want to associate with that brand because I love that brand. And so Harley Davidson, you think people put a Harley Davidson tattoo just because they like motorcycles? They like it because they like the lifestyle. They want to be that. And that why, getting back to your roots of what's driving you, is so critical. And as I alluded to, culture is important. Culture is defined by the atmosphere that you create. It's top down. Do not look at the bottom of it and say, look at that person misbehaving. It's your issue, because you're driving it from a top-down performance. If you cannot drive it down, you're not defining the right culture for your place. I'm not saying there's not office bickering. I get it. We all have it. That's called human nature. But you need to define the core culture of where you work. The happiness hypothesis alludes to this guy, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who talks about the concept of flow. I'm in flow right now. I love this. This does not work for me. I'm exhausted physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally, I love what I'm doing, and this is why I'm here this morning. That's why you guys hopefully will continue to do what you do. Get in the moment. When I'm in hair, I'm in flow. And you're not in, it's the idea is that mastery is an asymptote. In other words, we continue to strive toward it and get there. Otherwise, if we master and it's perfect, it's boring, right? I've learned so much this time. I mean, I've learned a lot from Nicole and Bob. Bob asked me what I learned last night. I gave him a laundry list of things I've learned. I said that's half of what I've learned. It's so much. You never stop learning. I like the saying, if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotting. And we only have so much energy in the day. If you have to learn to say no, all right? This is my favorite word. No, I'm not going to go to this meeting. No, I'm not going to write this book. No, I'm not going to go and travel over here because I'm exhausted. So what you put on the table, leave on the table, is so important, okay? And it's important not to look at hair as a stepchild. In other words, something that you're just going to throw on a menu service because it won't work. You have to stay focused. And focus is something that is hard when you're distracted by family, maybe children, your daily work, but you've got to slot out that time to develop this maturity, and it can happen. I told you that the people that at the ICHRS, when I was there, I said, wow, these guys came through St. Louis and were trained here. That's inspirational to me, and people that, like Ken has started here, he's now faculty and wrote a book with me. I mean, it's doable in a few years' time. It's just incredible, how if you're driven toward it, you can do it, and that's fun. So you need to create a separate website, all right? And this is the basic. This is my face website, which is more emotional content because a majority are women that I work with in facial, and the majority is hair, so it's much more logical. It's more broken down for my hair site. And you got to create a separate site. Slowly build it. Information. I'm welcome you to look at my website. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's a lot of better websites than mine, but it just helps you think about that, how to build it. Education's everything. I go to meetings. You got to go to meetings. You got to keep going to meetings. Keep learning. If you stop learning, you're dead. I was talking to a colleague of mine, a dermatologist, and I was talking to her, and I said, sounds like you haven't been to a meeting in about 3 or 4 years. She said, yep. I said, I know. You're completely outdated. And you know how fast that changes? Like this, journals, meetings, they constantly, every year I'm like, oh my God, I've learned even more. And you've learned that the way that I teach here is through Socratic method. You have to integrate multiple areas. You got to have redundancy in that. If I teach you just give you one lecture, you probably have noticed a thread. It's the same information over and over and over again, but through a different perspective, different angle, and it helps drive in your memory. USP, look for a unique selling proposition, something that defines what you do differently than what someone else does. You're not going to have all the answers today. When I first started, I went to Asia to learn Asian cosmetic surgery because I was going to look at that as a unique selling proposition. I looked at hair. Then hair became a USP. Then within hair, I offer things like I have a sedation. I can offer IV sedation. I can offer different things because I have an accredited facility. I look at ethnic. I start dividing ethnic treatments, female, eyebrows. You can treat these long tail strategies, in other words, and find something that you can niche out that makes people want to fly to see you, for example. Work, you've got to keep working, all right? It's like a bed of flowers. You got to keep working and tilling the fields. If you don't do that, you're not going to get there, so it's important. I leave you with one thought, is Steve Jobs' line. If you have not seen this 12-minute video, when I try to inspire like teenagers that come and either talk to me or watch me or whatever, I tell them to watch the Stanford Address, 2005. Just put that on YouTube. He says here, you've got to find what you love. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. Thank you.